Well, good morning. We're here on the corner of Westland and Barber Street to host a press conference with all of our leaders to address the uptick in violence here in the city of Hartford. I'm Brandon McGee, state representative for the 5th Assembly District, and I am standing with all of the leaders here in the city and even our state to not just talk about what's happening, but to also share our pain, our grief, and the struggles that we're all faced with as we continue to face the realities here in the city of Hartford. You know, one of the things that I've shared with people over the past several months, and I'm still dealing with it today, I lost my brother, Brandon Holloway, to gun violence in the city of Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, to be exact. I know, and that's just one of my family members, I know the impact and the trauma that many of our families are faced with. But just the trauma is not enough. We have to do something about it in order to resolve these unsolved cases, cold cases, but also to bring justice to the families that are right here in the city of Hartford. So what do we need to do? We've talked a lot about convening small groups to develop a strategy that includes our faith-based community, our local community partners, our local officials, our public officials, prosecutors, our state officials, to really figure out beyond just money what is going to be done to crack down on the violence and homicides that are taking place in cities like Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, New Britain, just to name a few. What we really need to focus on as a community is figuring out how to bring all the experts into one room that could provide solutions to this very systemic challenge that we're faced with. So sure, the policemen and women can do their job. The mayor can do his job. State officials, we can pass policy and identify resources to come in. But in order for real impact to happen in the city of Hartford, we all must be at the table. So we got to focus on those high concentrated areas where there is violence. We have to send a message to those young people, old people, whomever feels like they can mishandle guns, and let them know we're not tolerating any of this anymore. We have work to do. And it's not just going to be Brandon McGee who represents the 5th Assembly District. It's going to be everybody behind us. And so today, I am delighted to have so many individuals who could chime in on this conversation, and you'll hear from them briefly on their thoughts, their ideas, as to how we are going to move from conversation to action. And so I'll end on this note. I think it's important for the state of Connecticut to know that communities like the city of Hartford, north end of Hartford, this to us is very traumatic. Telling our children that, oh yeah, pick yourself up by your bootstrap, go to school and function, it's just not okay. We have to focus on mental health. And sure, I commend all of our community organizations that have been fighting the good fight. They've been on the forefront with our families, providing grief support, doing everything they possibly can. But we have to have a very well-thought plan that's strategic, sustainable, and it includes all voices in this community. There's work that we have to do. Do we need money? Yes. I've met with the governor and he's well aware. I've met with James Ravella and all of the folks on the state level to talk through the importance of being a part of this conversation. So, again, we have several folks that you will hear from, and then we'll end off this conversation across the street and with a closed conversation to talk through what are our next steps as a community, and it'll include all of these people that you see standing behind us, or behind me. At this time, I'd like to bring to the podium in this order Reverend Henry Brown from Mothers United Against Violence, along with Mrs. Beckman, United Against Violence, Corey Betts, Chair of the Criminal Justice Committee for the Hartford branch of the NAACP, Jeremy Stein from the Connecticut Against Gun Violence, Marcus Brown, a local business owner here, second-generation business owner who has served as a voice of peace, if you would, and also a safe haven at the barbershop, all right, for many of our young people that live in this neighborhood. Michael Manson, who was a part of the problem, now part of the solution. And then I'll come back to the mic and we'll end off our press conference with any questions.
Good morning, all. I'm Reverend Henry Brown with Mothers United Against Violence. Over the years, for the last 18 years, Mothers United Against Violence, we have seen, we have seen our community ravaged by gun violence. We have seen our young men shot down in the street like dogs. In America, we make up 6% of the population as black men. But for the homicide rate, we are at 51%. Something has to be done. You know, we see blood in these streets. We see our young boys, our young girls, and our elderly people all frightened by gun violence. We see the dead bodies in the street. We see yellow tape all the time in our community. Yet and still, the gun violence persists. No one has never called this what it needs to be called. I think it's a public health crisis. I think until we deem this a national health crisis, urban gun violence has to be deemed a public health crisis. Until we don't do that, it's going to continue. Resources are given to people that have gun violence prevention that have been deemed public health crisis. All over America, is it because we're in the urban community? Yes, it is. Because they already, AMA passed that, saying that it was a public, gun violence is a public health crisis, but it don't apply to the urban community. It applies to people with mass shootings. We understand the mass shooting, but people in our community, we know these are mass shootings every day. Every day we know somebody gonna get shot, somebody gonna get maimed, somebody gonna die. But we don't change our possession. You know, we can cry all we want, we can do what all we want, but until we deem this a public health crisis, it's gonna continue. So I'm here today to say I support all the organizations. There's some great organizations here in Hartford. The Men Standing Up Against Violence, the Mothers United Against Violence, the Hartford Community That Cares, and so many more. We've been on this battlefield for years, but the perception is still the same. Nothing has changed. Now we are up to presently 16 homicides this year, 16 homicides, and it's only July. So I'm here today to say we don't see it all. But the one thing that we haven't seen is resolutions. We haven't seen anything to bring this to an end. I think a good thing happened a week ago when all communities and organizations came together and stood together. We need more of that type of thing, but we need funding to do these type of things. And here's the thing, until we deem this a public health crisis, we can't get those funds. Funds are allocated to people that fight against gun violence. Gun violence is a public health epidemic, but it has never been declared that here in Connecticut or any other urban community that I can speak of. So until we get to that point, we're just gonna keep on fighting.
I just like to reiterate what Representative McGee said, because I wrote my notes and he basically said exactly what I was thinking this morning. But we have to put an end to this gun violence. As a mother and a grandmother, I am tired of the violence in our city. And we have to do all that we can, and we can do that by coming together as all these different groups. Our young people deserve better. Amen. They deserve a safe city. They deserve to be educated and to be what they want to be and not have their lives cut short. So we just asking everyone, even the people out in the community, to please do your part. We all have a part in this.
Thank you, Mr. Beck.
Thank you.
Well said. Okay. My name is Corey Betts. I am the chair of criminal justice for the Hartford branch for the NAACP. I'm here on behalf of Maxine Robinson-Lewin. She's at a convention, so she would love to have been here. But I'm here representing not just the NAACP, but the people who have died to gun violence. I grew up not too far from here, so gun violence has been going on for the last 30 years. And I had a conversation with my uncle, and he was saying, well, what do you think you can do to be a part of that change? So I had to identify what I needed to change within myself because I was a part of that problem. But now that I identified the things that I need to identify with myself, now I can be part of that solution and let brothers and sisters know that this is not going to be tolerated in our city. So whatever we have to do to come together as an organization, as a community, I'm here to support. So thank you.
I'm Jeremy Stein. I'm the Executive Director of Connecticut Against Gun Violence. I want to thank Brandon for doing this very important press conference today to draw attention to the almost daily shootings that are happening in Hartford. And it's not just Hartford where this is happening. This is happening in New Haven. This is happening in Bridgeport. This is happening in our cities. And we need to put a stop to this today, not one more. We cannot deal with this anymore. I don't know what to say anymore to the grieving parents, to the mothers, to the fathers, to the brothers who have this look in their eyes like that they have lost the most important thing in their lives. I've been to how many vigils with Mothers United Against Violence? It almost seems like every other day there's another vigil for another human being that has been taken from us. So we need to come up with creative solutions. We need to make sure that we're doing the things that are easy. Like I had a conversation with a high school football coach here in Hartford who said he could prevent gun violence. He could save lives. All he needed to do was keep the gym open for an extra hour so that people could practice. 1 hour is all he needed. And he has food and clothing for these individuals. That's all it would take. It would be 1 hour of a gym opening that could save lives. I spoke to a police chief that said he just needed one computer hooked into the ATF to help him track illegal guns that are coming from out of state into places like Hartford and New Haven and Bridgeport. These are simple solutions, and hopefully together, all of us from all communities, all of the people that have been doing the work, like Mothers United Against Violence, we can find simple solutions and act on them today. So thank you very much for having us here. Thank you for coming.
Marcus.
Good afternoon, Marcus Brown, Norris Barbershop, second generation barber here in the city. Father opened the barbershop back in '62. So I know a lot about the community, grew up here, right on the corner. Every morning I get tired of turning on the news and hearing about someone's got hurt, got shot, stabbed, beaten up. It's just draining. It drains you. It drains the community because people outside the community think that everybody's a bad apple. Mm-hmm. 1 or 2 bad apples spread. It's terrible. Every day I come and open the barbershop and I got to hear about somebody's relative who's just passed over something dumb. I don't know if it's alcohol or drugs or whatever it may be. I just think we need to get deeper into where these guns are coming from. We talk about after it happens. Let's talk about before it happens. Where are these guns coming from? Where are they coming from? I don't understand. We never talk about it on the news about the numbers on the gun, where did it come from, who had the gun, who lost it, who reported it stolen. I just don't understand. I just want to know, what are we going to do about it as a community? And I'm here to do whatever I can as a young man within this community. Every time I'm called on by any of the groups, I'm here and can do whatever I can. So let's just stick together and try to find out where these guns are coming from that are destroying our community. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Michael Lynn Manson Jr. I've been in Hartford for the past 34 years, all my life. And like Mr. McGee said, I was the problem at one time. I was shot at 15 on my way to shoot someone. 3 years later after that, I was charged with murder. I came home in 2005, and I still was the issue. From 2005 to 2010, I was arrested back and forth to prison. And one day I said, I don't want to be like this anymore. So I went and got help. So I found out I was diagnosed with PTSD, impulse disorder, bipolar 2. And I found out, I spoke to my mother, and she said I was diagnosed as a child. So you're saying I was untreated for over 15 years. That's why I had all the issues that I had. So, like I spoke to the mayor, the chief of police, and Mr. McGee, the problem is mental health. You can't fix people until you fix someone mental. You have to let them know that how they're living is wrong and how they're living is not right. I lost 3 people this year. I lost a friend at Vibes at that shooting. I lost a friend on Main Street, and I lost a friend on Winchester. And I haven't cried one time yet because this is another summer in Hartford. And I should not feel that way, but it's reality. So until we fix the problem, and the problem I feel personally is mental health, you have to let people know that it's okay to get mental health. And I hear that people speaks about, well, it's not enough funding. That's a lie. If you are on medical, like if you have Medicaid or Husky, or if you get SNAPs, food stamps, you can go to Behavior Health on Main and Westland, and they will accept your insurance to get help. And I feel like people trying to put Band-Aids on a problem that need surgery. You can't. That's why doctors have surgery. They don't give you a Motrin and just say, okay, you're going to get better. They give you an operation date and they operate on you. Our community need help. And the help is mental health. We have to let people know that how they're living, like I'm repeating myself, that's not right. You're not supposed to go to funerals 3 times out of a year. That's not normal. It's normal for us, but that doesn't mean it's normal. And it's not right. And I feel like some people just come and talk just to say they came and talk. I'm not like that. It's the same way I'm treat this just like I treat the streets. I didn't play when I came outside because I had to make sure I had to get home. So I want to make sure my people are straight. And the solution is mental health. Thank you.
So just in closing, we are going to have what I'm calling a 3-prong approach to this. That is the convening of all of our partners that you see here. And I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, State Representative Minnie Gonzalez. As you know, many of us are in session right now. So the Hartford delegation, many of them are there. I want to also acknowledge our mayor. He's here, Mayor Luke Bronin. And I haven't looked at everybody else behind me, but I'm sure there are other elected officials in this crowd. And so I'm so happy that they're here, politics aside, to really discuss what's happening in our community. But the convening of our partners. Secondly, we have to have a strategy that will also, again, identify the resources that many of our municipalities are in need of. So we can pass another law, but I'm not sure if that's the issue, all right? We need to get down and dive deep. And then the last piece is we have to ensure that when we implement this plan, many of our young people are a part of this conversation. And so we'll be meeting with many of those young people who could help many of us to identify where our challenges are and allow for them to be at the table, not just invited, but be at the table to talk about these issues. All right? We're going into a meeting. We'll have a more well thought through plan that we'll share with everyone, but we're declaring a state of emergency right here in Connecticut and also here in the city of Hartford. Thank you so much for being here. Any questions?
Yeah.
From the press?
Yeah, I got one.
For the press? Good, thank you.